I'm Justin, Vice President of Engineers Without Borders right now. I do a lot of work with Tallahassee Sustainability Group. Through those organizations, that's how I kind of got interested in grant writing. One night I was having dinner at my friend's house and she was like talking to me and her mom, and we were just like telling each other our dreams and stuff, and her mom's like, well, yo, I teach a grant writing class. And I was like, hey, I'm going to take that next semester. So I took her class last semester, and it was really profound. I mean, I couldn't even ever want to miss that class. My friends were all going to class with me. It was just a blast. So if you ever have the chance, she offers it for undergrad and also graduate level. And if it's undergrad, the course numbers, the course letters ARE 4930. And it's through the Arts Administration program. It's Dr. Devick. And basically her mission is to make you awesome and for you to succeed. So, piggybacking off that, what's y'all's ideal community? Like, if you just could envision this sweet community and you had all these aspects to it, like, what would the aspects be? You have like kids just growing all this gnarly food in the urban area. Mark, what would be your ideal community?
Completely self-sufficient, but not like xenophobic. Like, you like outsiders, but you like knowing that your community is like good on its own if it has to be.
Okay. What do you think?
I think a definition would be like your basic needs, and then you could add that, like if you have personal wants beyond it that you want to be self-sufficient on. But I think my ideal community, their basic needs would be met in a sufficient manner.
Yeah, like self-reliance, not having to like worry about production, like you can do your own.
But then wanting to have that, like I do.
Yes, you still have it, not like be against it, but like you wouldn't have to worry about going out and finding it. You
definitely
didn't have it.
You want to make sure that vision is shared with everyone, because you can't just have this one person, this single source of leadership in this community trying to like push towards this vision, or it's just not going to happen. So like when it comes down to your vision, it needs to be diverse. You need to have a team. You need to have really people working together to achieve this common result. Whether it's kids, grown-ups, teachers, faculty, even people in the government. You want to get whoever on your team for your vision or whatever you're trying to push for. You want them on your team. So it's a quote that I learned last semester, which is pretty awesome. Vision without action is merely a dream. Action without vision just passes the time, but action with vision can change the world. I find it's very powerful because sometimes I'm with my friends and we're just sitting down, chilling out, and we're like, oh, this is a great idea. Wouldn't this be awesome? Wouldn't this be awesome? And we sit there and talk about it, then like nothing happened. So you're like, wow, I have this great vision, but we're just passing time. We're not doing anything. We're just dreaming. So it's important to bridge the gap between those two. And what you have to bridge the gap is your grant process. It is like the means to an end. It's an opportunity for you to accomplish what you and your team want to accomplish. And it's a proposal. So a proposal is a plan of action. It's a request for assistance. It's an instrument of persuasion. You are trying to propose yourself to this entity, this foundation, this company, and want to let them know, like, hey, I got a really hip idea. You should come check it out. So when you're giving a resume to someone, you're giving a proposal. It's just like a grant. You're proposing yourself. You want to have a clean structure. You want to have a quick look. People want to look at it. They don't want to be bouncing back and forth. One quick structure that goes down and really delivers the key points that they need to know in a clear and concise manner. And a proposal can also represent a program, a project, or an activity. So for example, last semester, we worked towards a grant for a program. It's called the Agronauts Training Program. What this program is about is really taking these students who are in this cookie-cutter learning curriculum at Gatsby Learning Center and getting their hands dirty, getting their hands in soil, and hitting their benchmarks through this program. Really cool project. It was definitely a lot more of a vision, probably about 6 to 8 months ago. I mean, our organization was definitely involved, but once we started working through this grant process and having to put our ideas down, that's when we started to take the right steps to making this a reality. Now we do have the Agronauts Training Program running, which, if you guys want to come out and volunteer with us and teach some kids, we've got an awesome team. Alright. So like we said, it's a means to an end. It's a formal contractor agreement. When you enter into a grant, you're coming into agreement with this financial entity who's giving you this money. They're going to want to know your budget. They're going to know where your money went, and they're going to want to know what results came. Because ultimately, all they're concerned about is the results. They don't really care that much about who your organization is. I mean, yeah, they're going to check your credentials, but ultimately, they're concerned with their money that it's going in the right place. So when you're delivering a grant to someone, you always want to tailor it in that direction and really meet their needs. So denied. 90%. Most statistics are made up. So like the statistic I was going to give you is definitely made up because I don't know the exact number. But the reason that most people do get denied is they didn't research their funding source very well. They went and applied for a grant for a project in Africa when the grant was for the city of Tallahassee, increasing awareness on childhood obesity. And you're like, hey, can you fund my trip to Africa? No, they're not going to do that. So you need to make sure you're well researched on your funding source. It needs to be clear and concise. And your team and your application needs to look credible. You need to have a strong team, a diverse team, and you need to prepare it in a strong manner that is really something that's convincing them. All right. Like my friend Ice-T once said, check yourself before you wreck yourself. If you want to look for funding, you need to know who you are, what you're capable of doing, and the background of your organization, because you're going to be speaking on the behalf of what you can accomplish. And if you're going to go into this agreement with an entity or a corporation or the government, you need to understand that you're not taking this on, and if you can't deliver, that someone's going to be held responsible for this budget. Because ultimately you have a program or a project budget or a project director who's going to be held responsible and going to be liable for if money's lost or if things don't. And you're not going to get funded again. If you have an opportunity to get funded through an organization, you're going to get another chance if you're successful. If you're not, they're never going to look at you again. So you need to know your organization's vision. So like for GP, what's your vision with GP?
It's educate, sustainability. Well, we have a new slogan, I can't remember, but education, empowerment, and engagement.
Awesome. So looking at that, you know that the purpose of your organization has a lot to do with education. So when you start looking into the grant seeking process, you're going to want organizations that are in parallel with what you guys are. Because it's way easier to deliver and convince a funder to fund your project if you're already focused in what they're doing. Because if you're something that's completely outside the realm, you're like an economic research fund, and you're applying for some other grant that's completely different, like some developing world, and you're doing big banking, they're going to be like, why does he care? He's just looking for money, and this isn't something that they're going to have the passion for. Because ultimately your passion is what's going to drive you. So also, what are your organization's specific objectives and methods for achieving your goal? I'll get more to that later, but that's a very important concept to really grasp, because a lot of the times we get caught up between our ends and our means. We mix up how we're going to get there with where we're going. And we end up putting things in the wrong order, and all someone in this grant is seeing is just results. They're just saying what you want to accomplish, but you're never demonstrating how you're actually going to do it. So you definitely have to have your objectives and your methods. In addition, you need to understand what methods you're going to take to evaluate your organization, because ultimately you need to be evaluated for what you all do and be able to hold yourself to a standard, or else everyone's just going to be mediocre and not committed to it. So like I said, project idea must be in line with the organization's mission, goals, and strategies, and then strategically match with the potential funding source. And logistics. So logistics is one of the most important things when you're really researching this organization, because you need to know everything about that organization before you ever pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm interested in getting funding from you. Because if you get on the phone with them and you start talking, you start asking them questions about like, oh, so what's your mission? They'd be like, why are you calling me and asking me this? You need to be completely aware about who we are and what we're doing. So you have to do your research. For example, with Engineers Without Borders, we're currently looking at a project in South Africa, and we're looking for funding. The Kellogg Foundation huge foundation that gives out tons of money every year. So when it comes time to look at them, you need to have their strategy, their program, read through it, read through their mission, read through their focus. So foster community philanthropy and new models. Leverage new collaborations and partnerships for increased impact. So it's always important to move in. Does anyone have any funding sources that they're already currently looking at? Gensbar? And that's a private foundation?
I believe, and I haven't done the research on that, but I believe the Gensbar is through the Millennium Campus Network, which is the youth empowerment branch of the Millennium Development Goals instituted through the UN. So I think that that's one of their grants that they provide for college students, but I'm not positive on that.
Awesome.
And then,
you guys looking at anything? No?
what's the other one? This one we just did. Well, then there's a lot of stuff on campus. Maybe talk about that and stuff.
Yeah, anything. I mean, so there's all different levels of grants that you want to look at. I mean, you have your private funding, which is typically your foundations, because when foundations and organizations start making a set amount of money, they need to start donating it. So they need an avenue. And usually that's the best place when you want to make a relationship, because when you create this relationship with someone inside of an organization that has to allocate this money every year, like regardless of who applies, they have to allocate it. So once you get your foot in the door and you make these networks, and you demonstrate that you can deliver on these projects, they're going to continue to fund you, and they're going to continue to be your partner when they're seeing the results. Here's another example, Solar Electric Light Fund. They've been working with fields of renewable energy, household decentralized electricity for over the past 18 years. Going up to them and proposing what we want to do in South Africa, I don't think they're going to be too opposed to it. When put the right way and you have all your stars aligned with doing it correctly, then you're definitely going to get an opportunity to be funded. Here's another one, International Solar Energy Societies. You definitely want to tailor to who your funding source is. So when looking for funding sources, sometimes it can be pretty frustrating. You go into Google and you type in funding sources and like all these random things come up, and some places you have to subscribe to. But there's definitely a lot of funding sources out here. So I'm gonna get everyone's email address and just pass it around now. I made a Google Doc so that everyone can have access to this document that I made. So I put some funding sources on there, and I put some of the main concepts within grant writing that definitely people who've been doing this for 20 years can deliver. So it's a great resource. So once I get, everyone know how to use Google Docs? Has everyone used it before? No? All right, cool. So it's real simple. So it's usually, it's networked through your Gmail account. I'm not 100% sure if you can network it with a different account. Do you know that?
It glitches all the time. It's
So you need to do it through your Gmail?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So once you get invited to a collection, you can have collections for all different things. Like with TSG, we have a collection. You have everything down to a help manual just to do it. You have your Agronauts training program, Salvation Army Garden, all the different parts of it. So once you click on grant writing, this will take you inside to these resources that I put on here. One's developing a project idea, guide to funding resources, website recommendations, your purpose statement. This purpose statement document is really great. It really helps differentiate between your objectives and your measurable objectives, and knowing how to portray them in the right manner. And also, at the bottom, if you're just looking for like a mock grant that you know, just to get you an idea of how the grant process works, this is a blank one. So going into the guide to funding resources, once you're in there, this is a 25-page document. You can just download the original file, get it saved on your desktop, and then once you're in there, it's got all sorts of stuff. You have the funding process for federal and private, so you can differentiate between the two. Internet resources and databases, newsletters and resources, and then there's all sorts of other stuff in there. So have a ball on that. There's all sorts of links that you can look through that will just give you a really better idea of the different steps that you need, because honestly, the grant writing process can be very overwhelming. It's a lot of work. It's not something that you can just put together in one night or in one day and spend the whole day or weekend with your team working on a grant. You got to take the right steps, especially to be funded. And that's why a lot of people will harp on pre-proposal contact and creating a relationship with your funding source. Because it's one of the most critical things is to have this relationship, because then they're going to favor you when they review your application. So also in Strozier at the front desk, right when you walk in, they have the foundation directory. This takes into account every private foundation that is dispersing money. It's a thick book, about this thick. You can check it out for only in library use, and you can look through it, and it goes state by state. So like here's a sample with the Clinton Foundation. When you get to the page and you go to Florida, and then it's all alphabetical order, you'll see the foundation name, the address, the people who you need to inquire from, background. You got the grant type, financial data, purpose, fields of interest, limitations, publications, everything. Everything that you could possibly need to really match yourself up with them. Because like I said, with your purpose and your activities, you want to make sure you're in line with them. So basing off what their purpose and their activities were, when you're putting together your proposal, you want to talk about improving global health. You want to talk about strengthening the economy. You want to talk about protecting the environment. You want to hit those key points so that you totally mesh with what their goals are. Also, grants.gov is a great website. All federal grants, you'll find them on there. On the left-hand side, you'll see find grant opportunities, and they have a search menu. You can type in agriculture. Once you type that in, tons of grants will come up about agriculture, energy, development. There's all sorts of great things that you can find through there. Okay, this was like probably one of the hardest parts for me in learning in this grant writing classes, is understanding how to differentiate your purpose, your measurable objectives, and your goals. Because all these are ultimately results oriented. You're looking at a result. So when you're talking about your purpose, this is something that's based on need, and it's going to identify the outcome of your project. So the purpose of this class is to educate individuals on the grant writing process, the grant development process. It's something that's at the start of your project when you introduce yourself. When you introduce yourself in a letter of inquiry, you're going to give them your purpose. You're going to let them know who you are, and it's going to deliver a quick, concise 1-2 sentences about who you are and why they should continue reading forward. Because if your purpose is something completely different to what their funding is, perfect, now they can just toss it out so that they know. But if it is, and you're in line with them, they're going to continue to read. You want to go from your purpose into your goals. These are the long-range benefits. So to prepare students for a more effective grant writing process, to prepare students to take on the grant writing process on behalf of their organization, to develop a program based on agriculture. These are like the key words that people want to see when they talk about goals. And truly, some of this stuff you can find in the resource that I gave you guys on the docs. Because I just want to go into it and continue reading. And then you have your measurable objectives. So, for instance, what would be some of y'all's measurable objectives for your projects down in Africa?
To increase community involvement in the development process, to identify key needs within the community, to increase education.
Awesome. If you were writing a grant for TSG.
That's your job.
If you were writing a grant for TSG, what would be some of the things that you would put on here?
I like being quiz.
Would you want to increase students' access to local healthy food?
Yes, I would.
Oh, that's perfect. So, for instance, with COPE Coalition, Childhood Obesity Prevention and Education, they're dispersing $10,000 grants in Tallahassee. When we put together our measurable objectives for them, we're going to want to increase accessibility to local healthy food. We're going to want to reduce childhood obesity through education and through activities. We're going to want to identify healthy foods that can be grown in an urban area for the kids. We want to demonstrate how kids can grow in their backyard. These are different aspects of the grant writing process that if you set these forward, they're going to have an opportunity to really measure these and see how it can take effect. some cool facts that I didn't make up. Pre-proposal contact with federal government, 300% increase in getting funded. Private non-profit, 500% increase in getting funded. So it's all about who you know. It's about reaching out to the people. For an example of pre-proposal contact, we have a letter of inquiry. So your first step, you're going to want to drop a phone call on this person, send an email. Just get your name recognized. And then you're going to want to put together your letter of inquiry. Your letter of inquiry encompasses all these things that we just talked about the purpose, about your goals, about your measurable objectives, how you're going to evaluate yourself, how do you expect this program to extend on and sustain past the grant period. So some of the first things that you really want to take into consideration is make your logo known to them. Have this in a proper structure that's really easy to read. You put your logo right there so that they see it. So anything that comes into their office, they're like, whoa, that's the fish tomato water drop. Tallahassee sustainability people. Wow, I remember that logo. That's pretty sweet. And they see this and they recognize it. So on all your paperwork, you have your logo. So I highlighted some of the most important parts. Start off your letter of inquiry. And the goal of this letter of inquiry is to inquire for a request for a proposal. You want to see if they are interested in you as a funding source and if they would be interested in giving you a proposal opportunity. So you start off with your purpose. So the purpose of TSG is to research, develop, and implement a sustainable framework in Tallahassee community that will enhance its ecologic, economic, and cultural welfare. Moving down, you have your next paragraph where you're stating your need. In grant writing process, the need is something that needs to be clear. Because you need to make it evident to them that you need this money now. Like, people are suffering because they need help and they're not getting it right now. Kids are at an alarming rate of childhood obesity because they are not getting the education that they need. It needs to be delivered to them immediately off the spot, and it's something that's one of the first things after stating who you are that you want to demonstrate. And then, like I said previously with logistics, you always want to throw that out there. You want to let people know that you did your research and you know what you're talking about, and you're not just throwing together some type of proposal, just saying who you are and you want money. You want to throw out logistics, saying this is what the alarming rates are, this is the percentage, this foundation did this research, and this is the cause and effect. So it's very important to make sure you state that. We went down to Gazvini and talked to the teachers and got onto their cafeteria files to find out about the school lunch program for the kids. And when we did go in there and find that out, 81% of the students are on free reduced lunch. And you have to fall below a poverty level to hit that. So digging in and finding that key, just that key fact alone, that speaks huge numbers for a foundation who's trying to stop childhood obesity. Because anyone who knows anything about the food system in the schools in America, it's complete garbage. So they're gonna see that you did your research and see the people that it's pertaining to. And demographics are huge. A lot of grants, they have specific demographics that they're interested in and that they want to fund. So making sure that you emphasize the demographics and the logistics of these people in this community is very important. I'll totally send this Prezi out to all you guys. It's a free website that you guys can hop onto and check out. And then at the bottom, after laying all these facts and laying the logistics and stating the need of this community, we break out and talk about our goals. We talk about our measurable objectives. So for instance, through the Agronauts training program, we'll foster an interactive environment conducive to questioning and problem solving through demonstrations and hands-on projects in the garden and greenhouse. And we let them know what the current result is. Currently, there's an existing greenhouse that is underutilized and ready for upgrade. And then we express what our desired result is, what this goal. And our goal is to renovate and equip the greenhouse in order to demonstrate methods of sustainable food production with the help of the students. And interaction, the greenhouse will be geared towards meeting next generation Sunshine State standards for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th through 12th grades. One thing I want to state is any type of link, like STEAM learning or Sunshine State standards, something that is a government recognized and widely recognized entity or method, you want to let them know that you're like coexisting with that. So for us, by taking the next generation Sunshine State standards and putting that into our resume and putting that into our proposal, it shows that we're focused and we're aligning ourselves with what's going on, but in a different avenue. We're not completely going in the other direction. We're just teaching kids about things in the garden that they can't apply to what they're learning in school. And they can't apply for what they need to meet their goals and graduate high school. Okay. Also, partnerships, that's huge. In my class, I learned a lot about the difference between collaboration, cooperation, and partnership. They're three different things. And it's something that you have to look into, because when approaching the grant process and submitting your application to them, if you're saying that you're in a partnership with them, that means your two entities are one. You guys are together. And if you only have the support of a community, or you have the support of a school, then you're not exactly stating the truth when you're saying a partnership. So it's important to look up and make sure you differentiate between a partnership, collaboration, and cooperation. For our project, we got the cooperation. We got a letter of recommendation, a letter of support from the administration. When you're pairing up with another entity, like for us with the school, when you're creating this diverse relationship, it makes it way more likely to fund. Like when you have a diverse group of people and something happens, things get shooken up, you have way more opportunities to branch off and still make it. If everyone's the same person, the same method, everyone's thinking the same way, and something happens and you're all shook up, everyone's going to falter. So having diversity and having a strong team is by far nothing but success for your organization. So yeah, we kind of left out the principle of Gatsby brothers, the superintendent of Vandenbroeck County. You were able to throw that in there. Yeah, and also it needs to be expressed that you're thinking in the long term. You're thinking about the sustainability of this organization or of this program. And if you're just talking about what you think is going to happen, you don't mention how you're going to evaluate it or how you expect it to last beyond the grant period, they're going to be like, great, once we get done, the organization is going to fall and they're completely reliant on us. That's not what you want. So for us, we were able to highlight the fact of economic opportunities with food production. So that's a letter of inquiry. It's definitely crucial to have, and definitely something that you want to drop into the grant's hands, or the grant applicant, into the people's hands before the grant process really gets going and everyone starts dropping their proposals.
Did you say that you emailed them first and then you would send this, or would you send them?
I dropped a phone call first and just gave them an idea about who we are. I was like, it's TAS Sustainability Group, this is our idea, we're really interested in the coalition. And I mean, once we told that to her and we had done our research and knew that they would like that, I mean, the director was just stoked. She was really excited. She was like, great, it's the type of project that we're trying to fund. And then about 3 weeks ago, we gave them, or 2 weeks ago, we gave them a letter of inquiry. They haven't opened up their request for a proposal yet, so on a lot of websites you'll see the RFPs, so you know what you're writing towards. And it's always good to try and at least get your foot in the door before, that's my list of thing. To get your foot in the door before everyone starts dropping in all their papers. This is all I have on my PowerPoint. I have this small activity that's really awesome. It helps you get your ideas down. I don't know how you guys are feeling, what you guys have planned, but this helps you really like put down what you're thinking, put down what your vision, and break it down into the different avenues. You don't have to do this now. You can take it home with your team, work on it. If you want, I can work on it with you now, and we can try and brainstorm. But having your strong idea and having your concept is in words is going to be one of the most important things, because until you actually put everything in words, you can't turn in a grant. So you need to break down every aspect. Yeah, that's how this president.
How do you feel about if you know a grant, like you've seen an RFP for a grant, and it's not exactly what you're going for, but you can maybe make it work? I mean, is that like looked down upon?
I mean, how far out of the realm is it? Like,
okay, so we're wanting to take a videography approach to creating participatory community involvement. So we want the community members to videotape each other to get a record of the community's needs, wants, and views on how things have gone so far. So I found a grant that was talking about increasing video, but it was more, okay, how do I say it? It was more like media, not video research in developing countries.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, you're incorporating media in the whole thing. You're incorporating developing countries. You're hitting the two biggest terms. I'm sure in their vision it's talking about increasing the access to media, or increasing the publication of events. I mean, and if you can, like, that's innovative. That's very innovative, and people are going to like that. They're looking, I mean, these people are looking for creative approaches. With any, usually business and small business, like, people put their bets on these small, innovative companies, and that end up flourishing, like Apple. So having a great idea of something like that, which I think that's phenomenal, and putting that in their hands and showing how you can meet their goals and meet their mission statement with y'all's approach and what your organization is and your capabilities, I mean, there's no reason why you shouldn't get funded on a project like that. As long as you're clear, concise, and you follow the steps of grant writing. Is that?
Yeah.
And I mean, I just wanted to give a basic intro and just show you guys the different steps. If I were to try and go detailed into every aspect, then we would be here all night. I would be learning too, which is good. Because I'm learning now. Anytime you deliver something that you've learned, it helps.
Can you email this presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. I have all the emails. Yeah, this website, you just make a login address. It's really easy, and it's the cool thing about this is you can edit on it with someone, so you can click edit together, and you can send this URL to someone. You guys can both be on it at the same time. Yeah, just like Google Docs, and even cooler, to be honest, is you can have everyone's like got their little persons floating around like on here. It's sometimes chaos when you have a bunch of people editing. But you can have everyone follow one person and give them a presentation, and they can all do that on your view of what you're saying. So I'll make sure to send this out to you guys, and also send out the Google Doc resources to you all. So I hope it was helpful.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Thank you.
Learned a lot, and it's definitely, I mean, it's an art and it's a science. I mean, people have careers out of this, and once you start getting into this and start putting down your objectives, putting down your goals, putting down your methods to achieving them, once you start taking these steps, I mean, the more times you do it, the more it makes sense, and it becomes easier and easier. And especially once you do like something like this putting this project idea and putting all this down, you now have this on paper. So when you apply for these different grants, yes, you do want to research all the different funding sources and still make sure you're not like submitting something silly to them, but you pretty much have a lot of the chunk of the work done. You know what your idea is, you know what your goal is, and you can put this out to them and really deliver it to them. Here's like a rather large grant. I don't know if anyone wants to look through it. It's a federal grant, so they had a bunch of paperwork. I figured if anyone wants to look through it.
So thick.
Huh?
So thick.
Yeah, they put all these resources on there. I mean, some grants will 200-page grants. Like the Coalition grant is only like a 4-page grant. It's pretty small.
4 page.
Yeah, like 4 pages of all that information. You don't have a Gmail, Mark? Oh, I already have it, probably. Hearts for cute.
I mean, Google Docs works non-Gmails, it just glitches a lot.
Really?
Yeah. Because like TSGs was shared with my Yahoo thing, and half the time I can't even edit it. So I just go on TSGs.
No. So yeah, when you're in Google Docs, you just click over here to collection share with me. So I'll just be sharing it. Everyone, once you're in there, you can navigate through. They're all PDFs, and you can just download them onto your computer.
When, like, so this one has table of contents. Is there like a page mark or anything like that when you would want to add a table of contents? Is there any kind of rules on that?
For something small, I wouldn't if it was just like a few page, but that's typically going to be in the grant application. They'll ask you for that.
Okay.
So it's really important to just follow like strategically what they ask you on every avenue, because all the time people will put these grants together and their project may be absolutely fantastic, but they just missed one key element of the grant that it asked, and they'll toss it out. They might have left something small out on the budget and they toss it out. They might have left out their methods of evaluation, like how they're going to evaluate the project or what they did, and it's just going to get tossed out. So ultimately, when you have this grant in your hand, you have this application, I mean, you want to read through it 10 times before you apply, and make sure that you cross all the T's, dot the I's, dot the T. Yeah,
You got it.
I's. Okay, cool. But yeah, I'm sending these out to everyone now. Okay, so you all should have access to that. The project idea, paper that I handed out, you can find it in here. It's just something great at a meeting if you want to throw it out there and get people working on it. As you really start thinking about the beginning of it and also the end, such as questions like, is this project replicable locally and nationally? How is this expected to sustain past the grant period? The strengths of your organization, the key individuals who will help. I didn't touch on budget just because it's so, there's pages in here that talk about budget. It's just, you gotta definitely take everything. And these are some website recommendations that I threw on here. I had that as an assignment, just to like collectively take. If you're interested in agriculture, this website, beginningfarmers.org, is absolutely insane. It's the best. And these are just some local stuff. And some Twitter accounts too. You can follow some Twitter accounts like NSF, Nonprofit Times, Top Government Grants, Foundation Center. All these people on their Twitter sites, they'll be posting all these different grant applications like real time as they come out. So sometimes you'll get a way faster feed on those through there rather than through their website.
I saw on the grants.gov that you put up an email link that you can get.
Yeah, you can sign up for newsletters and subscriptions. So yeah, you'll just want to build your way up from the bottom up with getting your idea, figuring out your funding sources, looking them up, and then moving into the purpose, your goals, your objectives, and laying those out in front of you so you can demonstrate them. That's all I got for y'all.